Alright, so here's the deal, guys. School has been absolutely kicking my butt recently. It's left me with absolutely no time to make videos, so for today's, if you want one, I just gotta take you with me. Yeah, that's my pumpkin. I know. Looks like a sticker. When it's cold out, my transmission doesn't shift because it gets frozen. So the story of my first magic trick, the first time I performed magic, it all starts with Grant, my brother on this YouTube channel. He was the one who first got me into magic. Growing up, Grant and I did absolutely everything together. We actually shared a bedroom till I was in 10th grade. I mean, we played Legos together, we played video games together, we played all of our sports together, basketball, football, especially basketball. So naturally, in high school, when Grant got into magic, I did as well. But it was in a very different way. You see, I'm sure any of you guys out there who learn magic at some point know that when you're very first learning those tricks, you need a guinea pig. You need someone to practice on. And when Grant first started learning his tricks, I was that someone to practice on. And as you guys know, when you first start, you're not that good. So your guinea pig might figure some tricks out. I may have picked up on a couple of tricks just by watching Grant, but I would never consider myself a magician. In fact, I remember in school, I would brag about the fact that my older brother Grant was a professional magician. And since Grant and I went to the same high school, all the people who knew me knew Grant because we both play basketball and we're both freakishly tall. So they obviously knew that my older brother Grant does magic. So yeah, that's where we're at. Grant was a professional magician. He was performing for Chick-fil-A, at parties, at proms, gigs, you name it. He was out there. And I love to let people know that. I was extremely proud of that. But I only knew one or two tricks. I didn't do much. I didn't do anything. There was no rise magic. I was not a magician. All right, I'm about to pull into school here, but all that changed the summer going into my junior year of high school. You see, what was special about that summer is I had spent literally the entire year saving up for a brand new cell phone called the Sony Xperia Z2. That might seem like a useless and minor detail, but I promise you, it plays a pivotal role in the story. All right, so it's 8:10 a.m. I have a meeting at 8:15 a.m. I gotta run to school here. It's an advising meeting to make sure I'm gonna graduate on time in May. Here's hoping. I'll finish the story after the meeting. All right, I'm gonna be late for this meeting. I gotta hurry up here. I am 100% doing this next segment in front of the green screen. I'm gonna superimpose text onto this. All right, so back to it. I had saved up an entire year for the Sony Xperia Z2. It was a brand new cell phone that was coming out, and the reason I wanted it so badly is because not only was it waterproof, it had an amazing 20 megapixel camera. I needed to have it. Yeah, so I saved up enough money, I bought it, and we went on vacation, I would say like a day after I bought it. Of course, I brought it in the water to take some underwater pictures, and the first day I had the underwater phone, it got water in the camera and was completely ruined. Now you might be saying, Chandler, why is this important to the story? I promise I'll get to that. When I got back from vacation, I had to send my phone in to Amazon to get a brand new one. Unfortunately, that week I also had an overnight basketball camp with my high school basketball team. It was at a college and it was, I think, 4 days long. I was stuck at an overnight basketball camp with no cell phone, which kind of sucks because you're at a place you don't really know. I played basketball the entire day. You played in multiple games, and at night, you just stayed in a dorm room when you were in high school and, stayed overnight, played basketball the next day. So I was really upset that I didn't have a cell phone to just check Facebook, Instagram, that stuff before going to bed, listen to music. I was all on my own for the camp. But back home, Grant had like 50 decks of cards. So before I left for the basketball camp, I grabbed a deck of cards off the shelf. That way, if I was bored at night, since I didn't have a phone, I could, play card games with my friends, play poker, play BS, those sorts of things. Little did I know, bringing that deck of cards to basketball camp would be a life-changing decision. But for now, I have class, so I'll check back in right after that.
I started in high school when I was 15. I was cheating cooking.
All right, so I just finished up my studio class, which is basically practicing performing on camera, having a good voice, having a good on-camera presence. Here's pretty much what I did. But now, let's get into what went down with that one deck of cards I brought to basketball camp. So of course, when nighttime came around, I didn't have a phone, so I went with some of my teammates and we started playing some card games. One thing led to another, and now we're playing poker, all right? Now here's the deal, guys. 99.9% of the time, I'm gonna be the biggest guy in the room, and this was with friends, so I highly discouraged doing what I did when we were playing poker. Because of Grant, I knew a general idea of how to do some second dealing and some bottom dealing. So when we were playing poker, just with like quarters, 50 cents, dollars, I started cheating, I started making myself win with some awful card dexterity, but it was good enough to pass in a dimly lit college dorm room. After like 4 or 5 games of me winning, I actually told them, I was like, guys, I'm cheating, my conscience got the best of me. But I was just fooling around doing it, and they all thought it was funny, especially because they all knew Grant and knew that Grant was a magician. And they were like, if Chandler, if you can do some of those card things to cheat, can you do any magic tricks? And I was like, not really. I feel like I remember 1 or 2. Never considered myself a magician, just kind of knew some tricks offhand because of Grant. So I showed them the one trick I knew, which was that very, very simple, oh, was this your card? No. Switch it in their hand. They don't know. Oh my gosh, now it's your card. And the reaction was insane. It was so much fun. Now there are about 30 teammates at this camp because it was the freshman team, the JV team, and the varsity team all at the one camp. So everyone piled into one dorm room, and I started doing the same trick on about, seriously, like 15 different kids. And that's really all that happened. My first magic performance was that simple trick, and I did it over and over and over again. I put some variations on it when I was performing it just to make it seem different, but it was the same trick over and over and over again. And maybe it's because it was dark, maybe it's just because people were trying to have fun. Everyone loved it, okay? And everyone kept asking me, because they started realizing I was just doing the same trick over and over again, is there a grand finale? What's the best trick? What are you gonna end this with? But the problem was, I was not a magician. All I had done is watched Grant. Grant had tested out some tricks on me, so I had a general idea of some card tricks and some sleight of hand. I was not a magician. So I was like, shoot, dude, I have some big expectations for this final night, or at least in my head. I gotta come up with a sick trick to perform that night. But I'll tell it on the ride home, because I gotta get out of here or I'm gonna hit some major traffic. By the way, these chairs have some serious play. Now, at this point, I'm looking for a trick that's gonna knock everyone's socks off. I need a grand finale that'll live up to the hype. In fact, I was really nervous about it, if I remember it at the time, because there was all this hype building up around my teammates in the camp about what's Chandler's last trick gonna be, and I didn't have one. I had no idea what I was doing. I ended up using my friend's phone to call Grant, and I was like, Grant, I made a huge mistake at basketball camp. I showed people a magic trick, and now they want more. What should I do for them? And Grant was like, do you remember when David Blaine did the card through window on TV? And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's actually a pretty easy trick. And he explained to me how the card through window trick worked, and I was like, listen, I don't have the tools necessary to do that. I only have, this deck of cards. So without doing any exposure, by the way, I'm stuck in traffic, right? I wouldn't be looking at the camera so much while I'm driving if I wasn't going 5 miles an hour. So I was like, Grant, you gotta help me out, man. So Grant actually drove from our house to the college that the basketball camp was at and gave me the tools necessary to perform that trick. Once again, without any exposure, he gave me the tools necessary. What's so crazy about me performing this trick back in 2014 is that it's almost 2019 and I have the footage. I got the receipts handy. I'm actually gonna show you guys only 15 seconds of it, unfortunately, because back then Instagram had that 15-second time limit. But one of my friends of the basketball team did record it, so what you're about to see, all 30 of my teammates piled into the dorm room that we were staying in, right? It's very dark, you can't see anything, it gets very loud, but basically I do the trick and this is what happened.
Okay, get my back. Team spot. Same spot.
Look in the window.
No. What is that? I'm confused now. Get outside!
So obviously you guys can't see much there, but you gotta witness the awesome reaction, the prestige. Too bad it cuts off. People were freaking out for 5 minutes, sprinting up and down the hallways. It's one of the best moments that I can remember from high school. So much fun, great reaction. And I remember at the championship game the next day, the head coach of my basketball team was talking to the head coach of the college basketball team of the college we were staying at, and he wasn't talking about my basketball skills. He was telling him about my magic tricks, and the head coach wanted me to show him magic tricks. While that might seem like an anticlimactic ending, I don't know if you guys realize that the pure chance, the pure bad luck of my cell phone breaking before I went to basketball camp is the only reason why I would ever think to bring a deck of cards to the camp to keep myself entertained. Because I brought that deck of cards, I was able to show tricks, and then after the camp was over, when I went back to high school, because the camp was during the summer, everyone was asking me to see magic tricks, and I kind of just had to keep learning them to keep people happy, and I really enjoyed doing the magic, and I kind of just took it from there. And then Grant and I started performing together with Rise Magic. Well, I'm not going to tell the whole story right now, guys. That's for another time. But yeah, that is my first magic performance, my first magic tricks. That's the story. That's how I got started. And I'm sure all of you guys have your own stories about how the first time you did a magic trick, it's kind of when you got that feeling, that high of like, wow, this is so much fun to make people so excited. So if you guys got any cool stories, may as well leave them in the comments below. If I see any like really awesome ones, I'll be sure to shout them out in the next story time episode. Should we call it story time? All right, we're gonna call it story time. So if you guys got any cool stories,